Welcome back to Bass Capital Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Lara Wallace, and today I have a very special guest, special to me, Ms. Desiree Akins. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
She is the market manager. I had to tell myself that 6 times, not marketing, but the market manager with the downtown Palaca Ameris Bank branch. And I have been a client of yours in all your bank excursions.
Yep.
So I am very thankful that you have joined me. I want to first talk about how incredible you are. And I just, you know that I think the world of you. You have an amazing spirit, which I think is why I felt so close to you when you were in your former position at former places. So she has been my personal banker for, oh my gosh, 20 years? Almost
yeah,
20.
long
Oh my
time.
gosh.
We're kind of telling our age.
Yeah. Okay. So for a while.
For a while.
Yep. And I love that you have always had just a passion to serve the community that you're in. You know, from whether it be giving jackets to children who are in need, or whether it just being there for your clients. Like, you inspire me all the time.
Oh, you're making me blush.
Well, it'll just add to the glow of your face. So you have been with Ameris for how long now?
Just over 2 years.
Just over 2. Wow, I feel like time goes by so fast.
It does.
Well, my first question, let's rewind a little bit. How did you get to Putnam County?
I am a true Putnam County native. I was born and raised here.
Yes, girl.
Yep. Attended elementary school, middle school, high school, everything here. Did branch out for my college education, but I'm a true native.
I love it. How did your family get to Putnam County? Like, are you multiple generations or?
Honestly, my great-grandmother was raised in the Stark area, and her husband at the time had a job with the railroad. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly what the position was, but it brought them to Putnam County,
right.
And we've just been here ever since.
I like it. So going to school here and growing up here, what are some of the things that you remember, like nostalgia-wise, as being part of Putnam?
Oh, goodness. I think about Ravine Gardens. I think everybody thinks about Ravine Gardens when they think about Putnam County. And I remember as a child going to Jerry's Drive-In with my great-grandma.
Oh, yeah.
And sitting in the back seat of the station wagon. And at that time, they had a little tray that they would come and connect to your window.
Yep.
There was a white cardboard box, and she let me have the pickle out of it every time. And like,
those were the best pickles.
I don't know if it was because they were in there with the hot chicken or what it was, but
that's
the pickles.
A good point.
No,
there's
Drive-In.
Something special about that. I totally forgot. I don't know why I forgot about that. Like back in the recesses, I'm going to have to dig up some Jerry Drive-In thing.
I know, right?
Yeah. The other place, you know, what's so funny is I remember and then I forget every time, and somewhere it'll come back to me. But for the locals, one place that always sticks out to me is the old Kmart.
Yep.
Where they had that food court up front, and I guess it was a buffet, and that always stuck out to me.
Yeah.
But man, we have to do a show on Jerry's Drive-In, an episode on that, because that hot pickle was something special.
It was. Yeah. Now you got me wanting a pickle, but
right? I'm trying to think of who could compete with that pickle.
I don't know.
Drop your comment below about who has the best pickles in Putnam County. Not our episode topic, but very important nonetheless. So thinking about growing up and all that nostalgia, you decide to go into what area of study when you leave Putnam County? What would you do?
Well, I actually, whenever I graduated high school, I really intended to go into the medical field.
Okay.
And I needed to get a job. I was currently working at Dollar Tree, to be completely honest with you. And
we all start.
We did.
Everybody has a role.
Well, I was going to say a retail store, but it was the Dollar Tree. I was a cashier.
Before it was the $1.25 tree.
Before it was the $1.25 tree. And going to school. And I needed something that was going to give me better hours to accommodate my college classes. And I interviewed with a local bank. I started there the day after I graduated high school, again, to work through college. And within about 6 months, I realized I really like banking and I'm a little bit good at it. Mm-hmm. And kind of the rest is history.
So what you're saying is that your intention was to go into the medical field. Mm-hmm. My intention was to go into the animal medical field. I wanted to be a veterinarian and realized that people was my thing. Uh-huh. Not that I don't love animals. Please don't hear that. But I really like the people aspect of it. And so you transitioned from what you were doing. Now, was the bank out of town, or was it here that you ended up finding that love of banking?
No, it was here locally. And, I started and I had my manager at the time that she was and still is just amazing. And for all intents and purposes became a second mother to me. And this woman just saw something in me that I did not see in myself and believed in me in a way that I had never had anybody do before.
I love that.
And she mentored me both personally and professionally, pushed me to grow through various positions at the bank. And then I was afforded the opportunity to attend Florida School of Banking at the University of Florida.
I didn't know they had a banking school.
Yep, they do.
You learn something new every day.
They do, yep. And I owe a lot of my professional success, I can't talk this morning, to her.
Okay.
She's amazing.
Well, you are welcome to thank her on here if you'd like, or we can keep that a mystery.
Most people that know me know that it's Mama Linda
Mama
Bag
Linda.
Sheridan.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's so incredible when you can find a mentor that believes in you. And there are oftentimes, I feel like there are ways that you can't see in yourself the potential.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of incredible people who have been able to see the potential in me and help me get to where I am today. Though I've always had a natural talent like you have for banking, for talking, skill set I've been honing for a long time. Yeah. I think banking is that way that people don't really realize how much you are an integral part of a family's life, because
absolutely.
finance is like a staple in.
Well, I think for most of us, when you ask somebody, what's most important to you? Almost everybody is going to say their faith, their family, their health, and their finances.
We need to make health a F, and then it would be all Fs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
come up with that.
Find a way to do something with that. But I'm so blessed to have an opportunity to help with something that is one of the most important things to most people.
For sure.
And I just find it so rewarding, and to be able to see it come full circle, and to be, as be with my clients throughout that whole cycle, and seeing them starting out to going through all the phases and then really doing well for themselves.
I'm thankful for our relationship, and that'll kind of transition into why I wanted to sit down and talk with you today, because out of those four things, family, finance, their faith, and health, health this month is Disability Awareness Month. And you and I both have another common denominator, if you will, or a likeness, where we both have a child with a special need. And there are different degrees of that. If you haven't done research, I encourage you, I'll leave a link below to give you a little bit more information on what that means. But I'd like to hear a little bit about your story. So with your son, Dalton, and, my son, Aaron, is a cardiac patient and has been in and out of the hospital. And tell me about Dalton. Let's talk about him.
Yeah. Well, Dalton is our 17-year-old son. He has cerebral palsy, hydrocephalus, epilepsy. He is completely wheelchair dependent, always has been. He is 100% dependent for all of his care from his daddy and I, and his siblings. His siblings help care for him. But he's the most amazing kid. He's nonverbal, and I say that, but I mean, there are a few, like he says mama, and he calls his daddy Guy. We're not sure where that came from.
I love that.
He calls his daddy Guy. And so he makes babbles and gestures, and that's how we communicate with him, and we just understand what he means. But he's just the most amazing kid, and he's been through more in his 17 years than anybody else that I know personally. And yet he's so happy.
I love watching your post about you could see the joy.
Yeah.
On his face, and it really doesn't take words to understand that you guys are clearly doing an incredible job. And I love that the kids are a part of his care too. It's not just you guys. Now, he's your oldest, right?
He is our oldest boy. He's our second child.
Second child.
Yeah.
When you were pregnant, did you have any indication that there were going to be any special needs, or?
In my heart, I knew.
Okay.
Our doctor, I don't want to say that she ignored my concerns, but she ignored my concerns. Him and his sister are only 11 months apart. So I had just had a baby, found out we were expecting him, and the pregnancy was completely different. completely different.
Okay.
And I remember Wesley and I going to these OBGYN appointments and telling her, like, the baby's not moving a lot. And, you know, just something feels off. And I was very emotional about it and just kind of all over the place. And she would reassure me, honey, every pregnancy is different. You're hormonal. You just had a baby. You're having another baby. It's a lot. It's going to be okay. At that time, because I believed everything she said, and let me also say, I think she said this well intended. There was no malicious intent at all.
Sure.
We declined to have any extra testing or any of those advanced ultrasounds or anything like that done. And for us personally, those test results wouldn't have been a deal breaker one way or the other.
Right,
We're
right.
having our baby and we love him no matter what.
Right.
But I believe looking back that that was God's way of preparing my heart. Sorry.
No. We'll do it together.
When you think about having your child, I think it's human nature that we all have this dream for what their life is going to look like.
For sure.
We have this dream for what our family's life is going to look like. And while we wouldn't change him for anything, I'd be lying to say that this is what anybody dreams for their child and for their family.
Right.
It's not. And if somebody says otherwise, they're being less than honest, in my opinion.
Right.
We don't hope for our children to have to struggle, whether it be through health or emotionally or socially on any level.
No, you want the white picket fence.
You do.
And the popular, I say popular, but the well-liked, well-loved, well-adjusted.
Your traditional American dream.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We want that.
Yeah.
All of us want that. And I think it's okay to admit that that's hard. And while raising him has been the biggest challenge of our life, it has also been the greatest blessing in this life. And we are without question better people because of him.
Right.
You learn a level of true unconditional love differently whenever you are raising a child that's medically fragile, and you appreciate that really every minute of life is such a blessing. It's such a blessing, even the hard ones.
You have been you have been an inspiration to me because I can't. You guys handle it with such grace and poise, and I know, you know, from the outside that you've always just been so real with it, and like your comment, you know, saying that, you know, to say that this is what I would have dreamed, it would be a lie. You know, I can understand that. And for, you know, with Aaron, he grew up running and playing and enjoying life like a normal kid. And, you know, his heart really never held him back. It wasn't until later in his developmental years. But, you know, I felt like, especially when things got really hard and we started getting really heavily into the medical care, I kept thinking about all that you've been through and your journey. And it was truly inspirational because even when it was hard, you know, to see you guys come together as a family and to conquer that and to be so real about it. And something that sticks out to me about your journey is this community. You know, I don't know how many of the podcasts people talk about what's so special about Putnam County, and it's the community members and how we come together. And I have watched the community step up to support you in your greatest time of need and your family. And you have given that back to this community. You know, I'd be interested to hear, is that something that the community aspect that was already instilled in you, or do you think that your journey with Dalton kind of built that?
I think that it enhanced that. I think that both Wes and I have kind of always had that feeling and that sense of community. But, you know, whenever any of us are presented with a difficult time and you feel those that surround you support you and lift you up, you can't help but just appreciate it so much. And really, I think it's human nature to want to reciprocate that.
Sure.
And, you know, I'll tell you, I would not survive this life without Wes and him being the amazing partner in this life that he is. But over the last few months, most in our community know that Dalton was hospitalized for a really long time recently. And I will tell you that for the 101 days that he was in the PICU, there was maybe a week total that we did not have someone in this community that provided a meal to our children. For Wes and I to be able to focus on our child in truly a life or death situation, and our children at home to be taken care of like that and to be loved by the people outside of our walls that love us that way is just such a beautiful thing, you know? And so I get so disheartened whenever I hear people say something less than positive about Putnam County, because that's not our experience.
Right, right.
It's just not. That's not our reality. Putnam County is a family. And
Amen
whenever
to that.
someone is going through
Yep.
something, we take care of each other.
Absolutely.
In all of the meaningful ways. And if it's not through meals and support and donations of any kind, it's through prayers. And it's through positivity. And it's through kind words. And
Checking in.
anything. Just
Yeah.
checking in. I mean, there were countless times that you messaged me and said, hey, I don't need you to respond to me. I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I'm
Right.
praying for your family. When somebody may not be able to respond in that moment, but they see that, that does something that is so powerful that it's just beautiful.
It makes you know you're not alone.
Absolutely.
You know, to this day, I still have people in the community. How's Aaron? And some people who've never had the pleasure of meeting him. You know, how's he doing? And just to be able to know that, you know, people are still thinking of him and thinking of our situation just means so much. I mean, we're going on 2 years post-op, and knowing that he has another surgery on the horizon, I know without a shadow of a doubt, whatever that looks like, that I'm not going to be alone in that, whether it
Absolutely.
be just somebody checking in or the meals that are provided. Yeah, I could not agree more that is why I love this community so much. And, you know, what we may lack in some areas, we definitely make up for in the sense of family.
You know, I think that at the end of the day, we're all just walking each other home. We do that here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm such a
No,
crybaby
no,
today.
it's okay. I'm right there with you. No, I think that is, there are other families in this community going through that. And, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about in your journey is support. I think that with it being disability awareness, you know, we have an incredible group, the Pilots Club here.
Yes.
Some amazing ladies who go out and do incredible work.
They do.
You know, we have E.H. Miller, which is our special needs school. And I think that, you know, we have the ARC, who is a support to the adult disability community. But I think one thing that I don't believe that we have the resources, but I would love to see us pull together, is the resources locally, because a lot of the specialists for children with special needs are outside of this community.
They are.
Realistically speaking.
are.
And thankfully they're only an hour drive away, no matter which direction, whether you're going to UF or Shands or Baptist, whatever that is.
Right.
But I'd be interested to know your experience in trying to navigate Dalton's care locally.
I'll be honest, it's been challenging. As you mentioned, none of his specialists are here locally. We have a pediatrician that, while his pediatrician is a nice person, he's not equipped to handle, you know, the
Sure.
magnitude of Dalton's care. And so aside from just going for your routine immunizations, we have to go outside of the county for all of his needs.
Right.
All the way down to like his leg braces and wheelchair adjustments and all of those things. The groups that you mentioned, Pilot Club is amazing. I mean, they fully funded the playground equipment at E.H. Miller prior to E.H. Miller merging into Mellon Learning Center. And those ladies are so dedicated to our special needs community. And it is just, it's beautiful what they do. Dalton's teacher, Miss Tammy, she's been his teacher since he was 2.5 years old.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's amazing.
yeah, for all intents and purposes, she's his other mama. We call her Mama Tammy, as a matter of fact. And she is a huge resource for us. But we're limited in Putnam County with that. And I would like to see us have some more resources available too. I know that I have a good friend that she's recently started Autism Putnam, Amanda Hayes, and trying to get some resources and awareness into Putnam County for the families of autistic children. And we're limited. So we find that, I know of another family that they have a child that has similar medical condition to Dalton. And so we've become mama friends, and we message randomly and, hey, my kiddo had a seizure. Have you ever experienced this? Or what happened whenever this happened with your son's G-tube? And you just find those connections that way. But as far as like anything formal here, we're limited right now.
Well, I think this is a good opportunity, a call to action. There have got to be, this is a big county.
Yeah.
Putnam County is not small. We were
having a
conversation in a previous podcast about the travel over the bridge. If you live in South Putnam and you're going to town, going over the bridge
it's
is
such a big deal, apparently.
journey. Yeah. I mean, from someone who does not love to drive, and I think maybe that was instilled. I love you, Mom, but having to take a trip. If you live South Putnam, let's say San Mateo, Satsuma, it's a 30-minute drive to Walmart. Yeah. That's an hour just to get to and from the store. Thank goodness for, the Dollar General and Hitchcock's.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to get some things that you can't get, at our local mom and pops. And I am thankful for Ace and Hitchcock's for me not having to go into town. But, there's a lot of people that are in the same position that you are. What does care for Dalton look like? You named a number of things that seem individually they are all challenging, but compiled on that seems to be, full-time.
It is.
And very intense.
It is. Truly, my husband is, self-employed, so that he's able to have more flexibility in his schedule. And the bank is amazing with me and recognizes that I am mama first. Above all else, I am mama and wife first. But he, after being in the hospital for so long, he does not have a sleep pattern anymore. We've decided we brought home a baby vampire, and he stays up all night and he tries to sleep all day, which we're trying to get back into some sense of normalcy with that. But that's challenging. So, we're taking shifts, trying to make sure that somebody's up around the clock with him. And his older sister just recently graduated, and so she helps with that a little bit. But we now have, he went from being G-tube dependent to now he's on complete IV nutrition. So we have to make sure that line stays sterile at all times. We have to flush those lines frequently and make sure that the access stays good. So whenever our home health nurse...
That's stressful in itself.
You just adjust. We just adjust.
Adapt and overcome.
We do. But we have to flush those lines frequently. And he now has 2 ostomy bags. And, in a lot of ways, he's 17, but he's not 17. But whenever it comes to being ornery and being a little bit of a stinker, he absolutely has teenage hormones, and he doesn't like the bags.
Sure.
And I don't blame him.
Right.
So he rips them off, and then we're covered in poo. Well, then we're mad because we're covered in poo.
Right.
And then we're mad that we have to have a bath. And, so it's hard, and we have to, remove him from the chair and clean the chair and transfer him to his special bed. And then we have to make sure that we have him restrained so that he's not continuing to rip these devices off of himself and make more of a mess and keep that line sterile. And it's a lot, but we adjust.
I feel like for me personally, in my minimal comparatively experience, that the medical equipment and the process and procedure, if you will, is the easy part. It is the emotional and mental challenge of that care. That is the hardest. With Aaron, I found great support in online groups. Though there were times that I was too exhausted to even go to that resource. I would message something like, say, hey, I have a question on XYZ. And then I would be too caught up in everything to even go back and read, or just surviving it sometimes. I love that at least with our community, you can eliminate the "Are we going to eat tonight?"
Absolutely.
concept. And I think it's incredible, a statement really of what Amaris did. You were still very new, considerably in the bank, and they were. I mean, just looking at the support, I would go in there and I would always ask the ladies when I would go by, because, I work with you, and, how's she doing? They would always update me, because if you weren't available, understandably, they would keep me posted. So you could see that there was a commitment to that.
Yes.
But what do you feel like would be a benefit to have in this community in that journey?
Really, I think an identified resource group, somebody who is able to be a meaningful voice to connect to resources.
Okay.
I mean, we're getting ready right now. Wes and I are starting the journey of what do we do when he turns 18? Because we're not that far away from it. And he's still going to be completely dependent on us.
Right.
But he's going to be a legal adult.
Right.
And we lose some of our say-so, yet we have to have all of the say-so. So we now have to start a legal process. We now have to identify at what point is he no longer going to be able to be on our insurance, and what do we have to
Things you
figure
wouldn't even
out?
think about
Things
while you're
that-
surviving.
Correct, exactly. But now that we have this looming, date of legal adulthood, there's a lot to consider, and I consider us to be self-sufficient. I consider us to be educated. But whenever you start trying to go out and just Google this information, it is overwhelming.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I start looking at it and I'm like, the hell with this.
Right.
And we'll worry about this another day. But then, at the same time, like, he's getting close to 18 and
Yeah.
we can't keep putting this on the back burner. At some point, we are going to have to address this. But it's, again, like you said, you're just surviving, and we're just doing the best we can.
I think, again, you do it with such grace and inspiration, and still finding time to serve your community and to work. And kudos to your family for being that support.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
As you connect with other parents, because misery loves company, that always comes to my mind, but it is trauma bonding, whatever you want to call it, but where other people share likenesses and needs, you find that connection, because you can ask one another things.
Absolutely.
Do you find that, because again, I think our circumstances are different, where I know of a couple people who their children have cardiac needs like Aaron, but not many.
Right.
And so what is your experience in the community with others who might have similar needs?
There's just a handful. And it really, there's some that are in Dalton's class that he's, grown up with. And so we know a few of those parents. And then, I know some that have, their children are older. They might live in Interlaken or a little bit more outlying from Palatka. And we've just found each other through social media, to be honest with you. And some of them I've never even met in person.
Wow.
Wes hasn't even met him in person, but we just know that there's just this unspoken connection through our children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just know that the other person gets it. And, you mentioned about Aaron and his heart complications and how it's different. While it's different, yes. Does it make it easier or harder? No.
Right.
It just makes it a different journey.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's hard. It is hard. As parents, we worry about our children regardless of what it is.
Right.
So there might be a new mama that her baby is otherwise perfectly healthy and that baby has the flu or whatever it is. In that moment, that is her Mount Everest. She is so completely stressed out and worried over that, because that's what we do as parents.
Yep.
Does it make it easier than what I'm going through? Depending on the day you ask me, yes. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, for sure.
But at the same time, we're worried about our children. And so we're just presented with something different at any given moment.
Right. What do you feel like have been some resources that you could share with the community that, while maybe they aren't local resources, that have been critical in your journey that they could utilize?
Whenever he was little, we did a lot with Children's Medical Services out of Gainesville. They helped us a lot. And then we would connect through his specialist, they would assign us like a nurse practitioner or someone like that would follow us along and stay in communication with us. But really, we haven't had a ton of resources available. So I hate to say we've kind of been winging it, but we've kind of been winging it. It's a hope and a prayer.
And if that is your experience, I think that probably not just in this community, but other communities, that's got to be the experience. And I found that honestly, I'm just having an aha moment when talking out loud. But honestly, I found that in other groups, in other communities, that was the experience. That maybe it's not necessarily where you live. Obviously, access to resources location wise, like going to get the wheelchair, the braces, sure, you have to travel. But when we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, there were families who traveled 10 hours to get to the Ronald McDonald House.
Correct.
One of the things that I think probably is true is that there isn't enough attention on it. So during Disability Awareness Month, I want to make sure that we all think about their families, not just in our community, but in other communities that could be on an island if it weren't for the groups that support them. And again, the pilot's doing stuff within the schools, and this community, Putnam County, coming together for the families. I mean, I have seen time and time and time again where there's a family in need and our community members step up to help.
Every time.
But I would love to see, if you're watching this and you have a special needs child, no matter what the variation is, to your point, I couldn't do what you do. I'm surprised that and you've got 4 kids, I know that with my 4 kids and not having a special needs child like Dalton, I'm barely surviving some days. So to see you do this and still work and still be part of the community, mind blowing.
Well, I appreciate your sweet words. I do. But I will tell you that Wes and I are nothing special. And heaven forbid, if you were presented with the same situation, you do what you have to do as a parent.
Right.
And you guys would figure it out too. And you would learn how to adapt, and you would learn what your child needs, and you would learn what your family needs, and you would just find a way to still make it all work. And you might look back sometimes and be like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure how we survived the last week or the last 6 months.
Right.
But you just do it. And it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. No matter what, it's going to be okay. And we tell ourselves on the hard days, so far we have successfully survived 100% of every hard day that we've had. Statistically speaking, the odds are in our favor.
Right.
We might have to take it day by day or even hour by hour, minute by minute, but we're going to be okay. And
I love your optimism.
Y'all would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Any good parent that loves their children would do the exact same thing in the same situation. And we are nothing special.
Well, that's where I was going. I got sidetracked with that. So if you're watching this and you are in a position, no matter what the variation is, be sure to drop a comment below, and maybe through this conversation, we can come together as a community in a formal way, and maybe there are groups that are out there that we haven't encountered yet. So if you've been connected to something, but I would love to see Putnam County forge something special, because again, back to my experience in these online forums, these online groups, I think other people feel that way.
Yeah.
And not just this community, but other communities. But there are so many families out there who are every day surviving this.
Right.
And some days it feels like you might not survive. And some days it feels like you said, how did I get through that? Beyond me. And I think there's something to be said, not only for the care of the child, but the care of the parents. I think the resources to support the moms and dads and siblings who are going through that journey together. I just think back to my experience with Aaron and feeling like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. Watching your child struggle, having a community that can what's the word I'm looking for? That can relate in a way, because they've been through that, is incredibly helpful. So when we talk about disability awareness, we want to recognize the patients, the people who are going through that, but also the families who are supporting the individual.
There was a day when we were, for our most recent hospital stay, that he had one of the many major operations that he had had. And this particular one, sorry if this is TMI.
No, you're safe.
But his bowel had ruptured and he was septic, and they had to open him up, remove a portion of his bowel, and he was so swollen and so full of infection, they weren't able to close his abdomen. They warned his daddy and I before we went back into the room that, he doesn't look great. They warned us, they told us. But I will tell you that walking into that room in that moment, God knew that mamas and daddies needed to be built different. I am so thankful for my husband and the partner that he is and the daddy that he is. Nothing in this life prepares you to see your child in that condition. It is not natural. If my husband had not have been standing behind me to literally and figuratively hold me up, I think that my legs would have just collapsed. The next day, Wes had went home to our other kids, and again, you're there with your baby and you're doing all of the things. And I remember looking out the window and seeing somebody coming up. It was another special needs mama from our community, Christina Okeson. Her son is much younger than Dalton, but her and her husband have experienced some similar things, and she just come to hug my neck. It was one of the most beautiful moments. I did not know that I needed that hug in that moment. I was surviving. Wes was surviving. But that's what our community does, and that's what parents with medically fragile children do. Again, I mean, how many times did you text me? And we had, there's another family that their son is similar to Dalton, and that woman checked on us every single day, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So, do we need formal resources? Yes, absolutely. But for my mama's heart, those resources,
Right.
those hugs that you didn't know that you needed in that moment,
Right.
that supportive spouse that could be choosing to do otherwise, that's what matters. That's the big stuff.
Right. Sorry.
No, me too.
You know what? There's a part of, I think people want to shy away from these conversations because they are hard. But I think this is part of the awareness, there is something that you just can't be prepared for, in Aaron's journey. I thought I was ready, girl. I had done all the Googling, and I had a lot of, experience in the medical field, having personally some medical issues, never to that degree, but caring for my grandmother, Dayla had some medical needs as a young child, so I felt very like I had this. And we had been aware of Aaron's condition since birth. So I was like, I got this, and I'd done all the reading. And then there's something about walking into that room that nothing can prepare you for that. And I thank God every day that he doesn't remember it. The kudos to whatever concoction they gave him.
That AV stuff is good. They need something for mom and dad too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where's my serving? That I do. And, if it weren't for the people who checked on me and also, my husband, who, while he's not Aaron's biological father, was a rock for me, because I spent the first 2 days while he worked and supported the kids alone with Aaron, and that was hard. And I think we want to shy away from the hard conversations, but they're necessary because solutions are formed out of having the hard conversations. Absolutely. And this is part of the awareness. So as you continue your journey, I just, again, thank you to each and every one of, whether you're watching this and you've been a part of our journey, or whether you're watching this and have no idea and you're learning something new. I'm just thankful again for Putnam County and everybody who stepped up to help us and everybody else along the way. And I hope that through this conversation, if you're watching this and you're going through something similar, you're not alone.
No.
And please communicate, connect in the comments below. We'll leave the resources that we've talked about that are out there. And I hope that out of this, that we can bring to light, what it truly means to support one another.
Sure.
And maybe a group can be formed out of this, or just connections, like you said, sometimes that's the most important. But I thank you for your vulnerability, and sharing this. And, just thankful for the opportunity to bring this to light, and to recognize all of those who are every day. This is their life. Just like you wake up and same thing next day. And I appreciate all that you continue to do for our community.
It's my pleasure.
So thanks for watching this very emotional episode. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.
We're a hot mess.
Bye, guys.